What's going on, guys? My name is Terminus, and we are here for Frieren episode 11. I'm coming fresh off of recording episode 10, so we don't have that much to talk about. I'm only asking myself one thing at the moment, and that is what's gonna happen now, right? We did defeat the threat. We did defeat Aura and her executioners. We did stop the demon army from invading into 𝐏𝐢𝐏 domain. We found out a lot about Flam and how Frieren grew up and how she became the person that she is today, and how she also taught Fern how to use her magic and suppress her magic and all of that, although Fern, interestingly enough, already had that ability when Frieren actually met her. And Frieren, interestingly enough, actually didn't have that ability. So I do wonder if this is an ability that humans are very skilled in, if they actually tie their hand in, and the only reason, or if it's generally a thing that is taught in human society among mages, or if 𝐏𝐢𝐏 actually started teaching it to Fern as early as he could because he knew from Frieren. But either way, we do know that Fern was very apt in it and learned to suppress the magic constantly under Frieren's tutelage, like Flam did it for Frieren. We do know how more of the social hierarchical structures of the demon world works now, with the mana capacity being one of the main deciding factors in... Oh, holy shit, my fucking hair is gonna go on my nerves. Being one of the main determinants of showing your strength in general. I do expect at the moment that we have some form of debrief, probably with 𝐏𝐢𝐏, who is going to apologize to Frieren, and Frieren maybe also kind of trying to clear up the air, though she's gonna be socially hesitant again to explain to people why she was doing. Maybe she even wants to just get the hell out of here because she did her duty. And she's not really close to people in the city, but rather she did her duty to defend the city and just wants to go along and whatever. But I mean, that could be, but it doesn't have to be. Our tree, or my tree theory, might have been wrong. I mean, it's still possible that we find out something about the force field that is protecting the city or the domain, and that we find out that it's tied to the tree in some way, or they just leave it open and for us to interpret the way we want to interpret it, or to read into it whatever we want to. I'm wondering if that gets revealed in the process of talking to 𝐏𝐢𝐏 again and saying goodbyes to the city. Or if we maybe meet somebody in the city, or stick around and see something that we desire to, or that we actually want to do. Maybe Frieren has some form of interest within the city. I don't know, you don't know. Well, you probably know because you've probably seen it. And maybe you've even read it. So, we do have the common theme again or had the common theme in episode 10, with demons overestimating themselves constantly, be that through their own experience, of having honed a particular skill very long, or that being a part of them just judging people based on their mana capacity. They do, however, learn, right? I mean, not only just in the sense of I do this and something good happens, I do this, something bad happens, but they do learn complex things and have some form of insight. Their arrogance or their overestimation isn't blinding them enough to not have precautions set, to not have at least made some mental deductions about who somebody is. Aura tried to analyze Frieren and find out if her mana capacity is actually is actually bigger or not. She does know that humans like that, or she can observe, as other demons apparently too, that for people who are hiding their mana capacity, generally there's a lot of fluctuation in there, and you can tell. So there is adaptability in that sense. Yeah, another thing that I didn't mention, one of the comments said something about Stark and confidence, about how, interestingly enough, Aizen was one of the most revered warriors and most respected warriors, most strong warriors in that era, and he did never stop trembling. So, as we have established, courage, in this case, or bravery, is not the absence of fear, it is acting on something despite fear. But interestingly enough, there might also be a difference between resolve and courage, right? Courage being a personality trait in some way, although I have a little tangent there, and resolve actually being deciding to do something despite there being the possibility that you might not be strong enough for it. Although I think that in very few cases does somebody decide to do something knowing they will die, right? That there's a 100 or 99% chance they die and they do it anyway. I mean, that happens, but it doesn't happen that often, and I don't know if you can consider that resolve necessarily. But yeah, we talked about that. Courage being not the absence of fear in this capacity, but I do think it's more than just personality traits, right? Courage in a way is not just defined by your personality, but also by your environment and the experiences you make. So by the experience you have. So if you are very experienced in doing something, you might believe in yourself more, and as such, you might be more courageous in a certain situation. Stark, not having experience at all at that point in time in episode 5 and 6, actually probably gained some courage from defeating the dragon, right? And that is through resolve, right? You fear something, or you're dreading a situation, you brave the situation because you have resolve, you want to see to a certain end goal and want to achieve that. And if you actually manage to do it, you gain courage as part of your personality. And it's gonna grow the more experience you do make in that regard. But yeah, other than that, I don't have a lot to say to that. Like, I just want to go into the episode, see what new struggles, what new adventures we're gonna meet. Maybe we're gonna meet some old friends of Frieren's. Maybe we're gonna meet new people. We still have some people in the intro that need to be introduced, and we do need a new problem to be introduced. So this is gonna be a very interesting thing. Are we gonna go back into a more calm and emotional thing that would make more sense for me pacing wise, because we were just coming from the action high of the Frieren Fern Stark sweep, and now I think it's possible that we go back into that a little bit low tone but emotional and very melancholic remembrance kind of theme, or we go into a new situation where we are put into some form of an emotional struggle. And obviously, as the story goes, because it needs to be engaging, learn more about our characters, learn more about how they interact with each other. Maybe they'll learn more about each other and learn to work together more. That is one of my main wishes, that Stark and Fern are actually starting to get along better. I mean, obviously they have their quips, they have their, as Vincent said, games that people play, and they will develop those, but I do hope that they learn to actually work together more, because in this specific instance, in this arc, we did have them splitting up and splitting the work to actually get it done and trusting each other in so far, but also not working in tandem. That is something that you need to learn over time. So I do wonder if Frieren can actually teach them that, because she was with the Heroes Party and she most certainly has learned to work with other people, even if she prefers to be alone in many cases. But yeah, we're gonna see that. Let's get this episode started. Let me see, everything is up to speed. I'm gonna start in a 3, a 2. Oh, wait, actually, better. We're gonna start in a 3, a 2, a 1, a bam. It wasn't directly on cue, by the way. The force field, so we're still back here. I think she picked that up from 𝐈𝐦𝐩, actually. Right? Maybe 𝐈𝐦𝐻, but 𝐈𝐦𝐻 is, like, irreligious by tradition, so 𝐈𝐈𝐷𝐻, definitely. So interesting that you see so many aspects of herself, of her companions in her these days. But she did the same with 𝐸𝐿, so it makes perfect sense to me. Alright, listening to the intro. That would work me too if she said it like that. Again with the praise, I really like it. She seems to pay much attention to that, and that shows she cares. His son, yeah. At least you have closure now. And she's even getting a reward, wow. And of course she wanted the grimoire. That makes perfect sense. Oh, it's a fake too. Okay, interesting. A deception. I wonder if 𝐸𝐿 put down all of these grimoires as a deception for demons, right? Like if she herself made them. Or taught people to put them down. Of course you have. Okay. So we're being a bit more civil. Stark, I think you need to work on yourself. Look how she's not even carrying him, holy shit, she's just fucking... The disrespect. The disrespect, oh my god. And he's getting carried to town, holy fuck. Alright, we celebrate. I love a little bit celebrating here and there. Oh. Time to rebuild and to heal. I think that's important too, that you have that time. This anime is such a mood, it's insane. Like people, if you haven't seen that one, just watch it, okay? Like, this video is not a substitute, you know the deal, right? Support the people who make this incredible piece of work. Soldier's burial. I spent quite a lot of time here. Do you see that on their outfits? Stark is looking good in his outfit. His winter outfit. Alright, so a warning of the conditions ahead. More war, more conflict. She doesn't have a certificate. School arc, holy shit. Frieren school arc. Should be no trouble for Frieren, right? Oysters. Ah, interesting. Outer. That's probably the farthest place in those lands. And the first snow is falling. Oh, really? The winter is interesting. Some parallels to our own history here, huh? Alright, what are we gonna do? Survivalist training. 𝐏𝐢𝐏 region. 𝐏𝐢𝐏 would mean ceiling, probably, in this case. Bro is delirious. How convenient, Stark. It's an interesting fact that Frieren's information being out to date is a real issue sometimes, maybe. Oh, do we encounter somebody? Oh, yeah, elf boy. Close the doors. She's gonna close the door, isn't she? Oh, no, she's coming in. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Fern is very judgmental. I know this voice. Isn't this Ernst in 86? And he's a monk, so we do have the... He knows about it? Maybe it's a legend among priests. But it's very interesting how he has the green hair, which is the same design as 𝐻𝐻𝐿, who was also a priest. Right. We do strike that parallel immediately. Maybe so we can, identify it better. Stark is having a fever dream. Three, 2, 1. Wait for it. Kraft, which means strength. Interesting. Or power in some way. You gotta be prepared. Which makes me wonder, why weren't you more prepared, Frieren? Yep. Different sense of time. Different scale. I mean, before that she was the pupil of Flum, right? So there's that. Holy shit, Stark, what the fuck are you doing? And Frieren being her usual self. But yeah, we're forming a little hero's party here, right? The parallels are clear. All we're missing is the hero. But very interestingly enough, Frieren could represent that, right? Because she wants to carry the will of him along. So she could take that place of the hero who is revered because he already has that status. Oh, but she might be a physical person or individual. Is he so much older than her? He seems to be. The power of belief, right? Everybody needs something to hold on to. Kenny's words in Attack on Titan, for example. Right, that's what pops into my mind. But in a positive connotation, right? But is it so wrong? Exactly. What is your aureola? It's also just on the level of a rumor, right? I like that. Cut away and just show a little bit something. We don't know how much she tells him, right? Okay, and now it makes sense why he took in Fern. Aren't we all looking for praise sometimes, right? Oh, is that a saying in the religion, maybe? So, is he related? No, he can't be, right? Weird, right? Interesting. Very weird, but interesting. I mean, he must be older than all of them, but he has similar mannerisms. Wonder if that's the common faith, right? Sharing a community, having a similar sense of... She will someday, but when? And I think she dreads that moment, but she also looks forward to it. Interesting how you can just say that if you're an elf. But he seems to pay attention to humans still, right? There's this desire to learn more. And we do have this information, interestingly enough. Apparently the goddess might be a real deity, right? I mean, that's obviously nothing too unusual in a fantasy story. That's obviously nothing too unusual in a fantasy story, but it's still interesting to know, but not in all of the stories this is the case, and not in all the stories you do have actual deities that are alive, or when I say alive, that are physical beings. Sometimes deities are just ideas or rumors or right, a belief system that can't be proven or disproven. And at this point, he apparently is older than Frieren, which is a very interesting plot point, of course, because so far all we have seen is the perspective of people who are younger than Frieren. And I do think that even with all the experience some of them have, and with like the respect Frieren has for them, there's still something that, in my opinion, would maybe impress her more, in a sense that this is something she hasn't really encountered much, if even since her childhood, even, right? If she even has encountered it at some point since her entire village was slaughtered and whatnot. So to be in this situation where you are the younger one, right, where you do have a person that can kind of relate to your experiences, is vastly different, though. Yeah, to have someone who you can kind of relate with, who has similar experiences that you had, but has a completely different personality maybe, and a completely different view on life. And also, how does a person who lives this long, right? We see so many people get born and die, so many eras pass by. How does a person like this find their faith? A faith that is maybe shared with humans or other beings that are much shorter lived than them themselves. That is all very interesting questions coming up, and I do wonder if we do ruminate later on that, or if that was just a one in an instance meeting where we do find that there are people in the world that do have different perspectives from Frieren. If this is just a way for us characterize Frieren and kind of differentiate her from the rest of her species, right? That we do not fall into this concept of which we talked about of assimilation, where we take one concept or prototype idea of how an elf is supposed to be in this story and take all of the things that we know about Frieren and project them on any other member of the species, because that's easy to do if this is the only experience you had. It's not different when you meet other cultures or people from other countries here in the real world, right? You do meet people and you do automatically make assumptions based on what you are used to from other representatives of that country, be that in media or be that in what we got taught in school, right? In that regard, we are all kind of a product of our time. Yeah, and that's very interesting to think about, that we do have, you do need to keep that open mind to not just practice assimilation, but also accommodation, which is if we take in new information and we update the old information that we have in the old conceptual information that we have about a certain category of things or people in our brain, which is, by the way, much harder to do than assimilation, because learning new information from the get-go, at least a lot of studies do support that, is a lot easier than taking old information and changing its content, overriding that more or less, right? It has to be very impressive experience. It has to be a lot of information. I don't think it has to be a lot of information, but it has to be very I do think it has to happen multiple times for us to kind of, or we do need to have the strong motivation and desire to change that information. That's also a possibility. Of course, motivation plays a huge role in our lives, and we do see this person is motivated by, like, this is how he holds on to the experiences he made, that everybody he knew and met in his life and that ever praised him is dead, and he's like, I do need to believe in this, otherwise what is there left when I'm done, right? I pull my strength from that one day maybe I'm gonna stand in front of my goddess in this case, and she's gonna praise me for all the things I've done. She's gonna tell me I did good, and I had a great impact on whatever, right? And whatever I wanted to have an impact on, because everybody I knew who knew about my deeds and knew about me is dead, right? The world has forgotten me, more or less, and this is kind of the first experience that we that we make with somebody who is similar to Frieren but also different. The goddess of creation hasn't shown herself once in the long history of this world. But she doesn't say that she hasn't shown herself, excluding during the age of mythology. It was very interesting. I would like to find out more about this age of mythology, which sounds to me like there's right. It's the age that is being told in tellings, and not the one that we have actual, I'd say, believable records on. Right, we do only know that from probably holy scriptures and whatnot. Very interesting picture of the goddess in this case. Elven ears. Very funny, very interesting. I do wonder if Hyder and him believed in the same, because they have the same phrases kind of that they seem to put out, or if that is just to highlight their similarity as men of faith. But it's very well possible that we do have deities that are within multiple religions, or that we have a common religion among multiple races. That would be something interesting to find out. And Frieren kind of says, yeah, well, is that not just something you want, right? Something you desire, something you would like to have at the end, like a hope, right? He's sniffing the hopium. But in the end, right, that is often the things, like the goals we set ourselves and the things we like to believe that happen in the world, like the structure, this internal structure that we put on the world in our mind, that is often just hopeful and based on our own desires and our own longings. And in a way, obviously, many of us just desire to be appreciated and loved beyond our basic needs. We do have Maslow's pyramid, right? Which I mean, I'm gonna play ad for a second and just, I don't have it ready, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna find it very quickly. Let's actually just open that up. And yeah, we do have Maslow's the hierarchy of needs, where we do have the basic physiological needs, obviously down there with food, water, whatever, rest. Then we need security in our life. We need to be at least, right, self-assured, or at least believe in the grand structure around us, that there's some kind of security, right, some level of security. Then we have belongingness, love, right, intimate relationships, friends, whatever. I'm sure he's had these, but he's also lost these, right? So it must be a really lonely life in some form. And yeah, and then we have prestige and the feeling of accomplishment, which, where do you get it from if not from your friends or the people around you? If you do not have a community, if you do not have a structure, where do you get it from? And only then can there be achieving one's full potential, creative activities, right? Fulfilling your life's purpose, more or less. But also for that, we do also want, right? We do also want that feeling of getting praised for it, and maybe getting admired for it, and people acknowledging that we do it. Because that is all part of our reward structure. It's all part of our motivation, right? If you don't get any external rewards from that, I mean, obviously there is an internal reward structure. Frieren shows that very much. She does want to follow in Himmel's footsteps and do the things that Himmel really liked her doing, because she wants to be that person. But that is self-actualization, right? And that is as an effect of very, like, a lot of things, but also as an effect of, what did your friends appreciate about you? What did your loved ones appreciate about you, right? But with that, the episode comes to a close with a little flashback to not Himmel in this case, also very cute how Stark and Ferna are working together here. But not Himmel, but Heiter this time, which the parallel with the priest makes perfect sense. And we do always hook that in, right? We do always hook that into these moments where Frieren hears or sees something or encounters a situation where she's like, well, right? I've heard that before. I heard something like that before. I was in that situation before. And then she's thinking back, and everything that she does loops back to either Flam or the Heroes Party, right? Primarily Himmel, but also Heiter, Eisen, whatever. Everything she does. That is a big, big part of her self-identity and also of her processing information. Yeah. Very cool episode, as always. Guys, if you do enjoy this discussion, some of them are larger, some of them are a little bit smaller, and that's fine. I think you don't need to sit here and talk about stuff for 40, 50, 60 minutes if there's not enough to talk about, right? We can just shorten it a little bit. I don't want to waste your time either. I just want to get you thinking and maybe give you along some stuff that you might have not thought about, and then you can give me something back in the comments down below and say, hey, this is some aspect that I really liked about this episode, or this is something that I really loved. And then, right, then I can engage with it in a few episodes and be like, okay, this is a really cool thing that I didn't pick up on. And then going forward in the next episodes, I might pick up on more stuff that's happening along those lines, and might be able to analyze that a little bit more. I do hope you subscribe if you want to see more videos of this. I've had some issues with Frieren so far. If it's gonna keep up, I'm probably gonna do timer reactions. I'm gonna be quite honest with you, but we'll see how you guys receive that. For series where it's not that bad, I'm definitely not gonna do timer reactions. I'm talking about copyright, of course. yeah, other than that, I do have a Patreon if you do want to have early access to these reactions, especially to the discussions, but also to the reaction itself. The reaction will always be there, right? If you want to have early access, or if you just want to support me, check that out. I have a couple of tiers. Nobody subscribed yet, obviously, because I've been in the game as long. And there's not as much to look into, but Made in Abyss is on there at the moment, and I'm also releasing Frieren 1 or 2 days early, for just as a little thank you for anybody who would like to subscribe, a little incentive to go further. I would really like to make that into one of the a side hustle for me. I said that a couple of times already. Don't need to repeat it all the time. Obviously, I don't want to put anybody under pressure. If not, just comment down below, tell me what you think. I really love to hear from you. See you next time.